Sapphire Kavango River Challenge. The Kavango River, dividing Angola and Southwest Africa and Namibia. This was the setting for the 1988 Sapphire Kavango Canoe Marathon. This race, the longest in Africa, started at Muses, flying down through Bunya, Sia, 54 kilometers away, and onto Rundu, 96 kilometers from the start. The river, rich in bird and wildlife, flows in an easterly direction away from the sea and ends up in the Okavango. At the waterfront in Rundu, arrangements were finalized and Rundu Airport was a bustle of activity as dozens of top South African and Southwest African canoeists supervised the offloading of their equipment. Sapphire supplied 2 Hercules aircraft to take the participants to the Kavango. Competitors and guests were welcomed by the Rundu-based Kavango choir before they were escorted to their overnight camp where they could prepare for the big event. Race day on Saturday the 9th of April. The Muses camp where more than 50 canoeists were going to start their 96-kilometer route. Weather conditions were ideal, fairly low cloud cover and 23 degrees. Humidity not bad. And the canoeists are on their way. And to guide us along this little excursion on the Okavango River, the well-known canoeist, Donnie Kutzer. Donnie, 96 kilometers is really like comrades on the water, isn't it?
Yes, you could say that, Arnold. There is a similar race on the Vaal River, but that is over 2 days. And this is a very flat water section, so it is really a grind.
Now, the water flows at about 10 kilometers per hour. Does that make a huge difference to how much energy you use?
No, the canoeists don't feel the flow of the water. They're paddling in flat water, and that's why it's so critical that they go in bunches, because if they stay in bunches, each one can take a turn pulling in the front, and the others next to him can ride waves.
Now, there's been a bit of controversy about riding waves. Tell us a bit more about that. How does it work?
You save approximately 10 to 20% energy depending on your weight if you're sitting next to a canoeist who is paddling in the front. That is why the start is so critical. Canoeing, whatever the distance, starts off with an interval in which the canoeists paddle more than 4 minutes a kilometer.
At Sia, which was the start of the Watos, and more about them later, as well as the ladies and the junior races, more surprises awaited the spectators on both sides of the Kavango's banks. A raft race unequaled this deep into Africa. Men and women of all shapes and all sizes, determined to have a rather good time. And prize money was up for grabs on top of it all. There would be a handsome reward for the first raft to arrive at Rundu, as well as the most unique design, still floating that is. This lady seemed to be more wary of our cameraman than of the crocs and hippos. The police raft displayed their 75th anniversary logo, and they were being caught up in the stream. But this team were more intent on letting all the locals know their whereabouts. And the old maxim, a good time was had by all, was true for this one. The Hampa Maria wearing sapphire banners was present throughout the raft and the canoe race to ensure that no one got lost in the tributaries flowing off the river. Back to the canoeists. Donnie, now we can really see your theory about slipstreaming working.
That's correct, Arnold. If you look at the boats, you'll find out that they're riding in specific places. For instance, there you have a double directly behind the one that's pulling. He's riding on the wave of the 2 canoeists on either side, so he gets a tremendous amount of help sitting there.
There's the beauty of Southwest Africa, fantastically displayed. Donnie, while we see the competitors battling away here, who were the big names in the race?
There are some top canoeists who are taking part now. We have, for instance, Nico Viljoen, Springbok paddler, Chris Greef, Springbok numerous times, Graham Monteith also. These two are taking advantage of the slip provided by the motorboat because they've been dropped by the front bunch. But after getting onto the bunch, you can see that they were dropped again. It means quite a long paddle if you're on your own. That's why the bunch would stay together and help each other. And only now and then somebody would be feeling his oats.
Yeah, Donnie, when you say feeling his oats, how difficult is it to paddle in rhythm with a guy in front of you or behind you in the boat?
It's a matter of training. You'll see some styles vary. You can see, for instance, some people cock their wrists, others paddle with straight arms. But when they put in the power and go as hard as they can, trying to drop the people off their slips, then they all paddle straight arms because that's the correct style.
Obvious that the local population stared in wonder at that bunch going through. Who have we got there up front now?
In the picture, you have the two singles together. Closest to the camera is Nico Viljoen. Just behind him is Oscar Chulupski. Nico has got more advantage than Oscar because Oscar is paddling in troubled water, whereas Nico is sitting in clear water to the side of the leading doubles.
Some furious action in the pack there, Donnie, but there were 3 different starts in the race. Tell us about those.
It was to cater for the various canoeists. Some would go just for the opportunity of paddling on a river like this, which is unique. Others would, just for them, it would be a tremendous achievement just to finish this distance. Because 42 kilometers on flat water, I can tell you, is not easy.
Local fishermen from nearby villages look on anxiously in their dugouts or wattos as the field passes. And past they certainly did with furious pace.
I think it's quite an achievement for Nico to sit slip here with Chulupski as well, because they are sitting on the slips of doubles and who can go much faster than what they can. So they have to grind and concentrate all the time because the doubles are faster and stronger than them.
Obviously also perfect weather if we look at the cloud banks behind the canoeists there.
One really can say that we were very fortunate with the weather.
And somebody else who was making heavy weather of it was Oscar Chulupski. Why the furious activity there, Donnie?
In the front you had Graham Monteith and Frank Saul doing an interval, and when the lead changes, the boats at the back have to jostle for position once again to get that all-important slip.
When you say doing an interval, does that mean they surge, they go a little bit faster?
They go a lot faster for between 1 and 4 minutes. For instance, here we see Oscar falling off the slip. The minute you fall off the slip, you have to climb a wave to get back over, and that takes a tremendous amount of energy. If you do it once or twice, you're okay. But after 3 or 4 times, that's it. You've gone off the bunch. Chris Greef is pulling in the front there and made the early pace very difficult for them.
Graham Monteith still has time to wave at the camera there. And it really makes you wonder what they have in those water bottles. That's the little pipes that hang from their mouths, Donnie.
That's correct. They need a sugar solution or glucose solution to help them supply the necessary energy. I think all these canoeists underestimated this distance. Yeah, for instance, because of a cocking action in his wrist and because it's only flat water, he picked up problems in his tendons on his wrists.
It seems that we may call you Dr. Donnie Kutzer as well after this experience.
I think he was very fortunate that we were there. A lot of people pick up problems on a flat water race like this. Their wrists swell to twice their size. There you get a picture of what riding a slip is. The nose is buried under the water, the back is out of the water, and he has got a lot less trouble in keeping the boat moving. Here, Stanley Fryman and Andrew Fenter are doing a tremendous interval, and these boys at the back really have to grind to get back onto that slip.
And now drama for Oscar Chalupsky. He doesn't look happy at all.
It looks like his boat is filled up with water. I wonder if he has a pump in it. Once you're off the bunch like that, it's very difficult. I know for a fact that Nico has got a pump, so it wouldn't bother him if his boat filled with water.
The pack with some furious action. Who's leading there now, Tony?
Chris Greef.
So Chris Greef takes the leaders into the halfway mark at Bunya, 60 kilometers. Peaceful serenity of Southwest Africa, broken up by a plane flying over the Kavango River, keeping a close tab on the action. And it seems that this pair also had too much of the action, at least for the time being.
Here you see the sprint to the finish. The first double over this halfway mark won 500 Rand to Stanley Fryman and Andrew Fenter.
You're watching the Safé Kavango River Challenge. Inside the Air Force Alouette helicopter, we leave the canoeists to see what is happening at the finish at Rundu. Marquee tents with beer gardens and stalls selling souvenirs, food stalls, and just about everything to make the atmosphere really festive. Something totally foreign to the population was about to happen, with ear-shattering surprise at that. A motocross-style race with 50 competitors trying out the testing course. All the thrills and spills of real motocross, except this was way, way away from the big centres where it normally happens. It was a juniors class, a seniors class, and quite appropriately, the king of the dirt section. Who wouldn't want to win that one? And you thought the boys on the border had a hard time, huh? It was fun back there, but out on the Okavango, it was more serious. The paddlers had by now been going at it for nearly 5.5 hours.
Their ideas of racing are now over. It's a question of survival.
Either everybody stops or nobody stops.
Explain something there, you dead. Stan already has.
Give my
Donnie, can you want to go down to Rundu and see how far it actually is from here? In the speedboat?
Stan, I'm telling you now that 90%
We're slowing down, so I say we're
just past the other guy. It was going like a bomb.
They cleaned out everything in the boat. They even had dog biscuits.
That was after they reached consensus to all stop and rest for a while.
Yeah, they had to. But they also started off and left Graham and Frank behind.
The dugouts of the local population, known as Wetos, started out at Sia to paddle the 42 kilometers to Rundu, and this squad proudly displaying their newly acquired t-shirts, one hands down, or is that arms up? It looks much easier than it is, and the squads really did well to reach Rundu as fast as they did. Typical military precision in that announcement, and now you know, the canoeists are on their way to the finish line. The Kavango River was overflowing its banks, and of course, great news for the canoeists. The morning of the race, the river was carefully scrutinized, and no hippos and crocs would have any early breakfast here.
This is about 3 kilometers from the end. These canoeists have forgotten about their sore bums and aching shoulders and are starting to grind to the finish. Stanley Fryman and Andrew Fenter wouldn't let Graham Monteith get off their slip. Graham is trying his best. But Stanley and Andrew are sprinters and have an advantage over the finish.
And that finish was only 500 meters away. Paddles failing between the top three, Fryman and Fenter, then Sol and Monteith, and the singles canoe there, Nico Viljoen. And a tremendously long way that these men have paddled. The finish area, Donnie, take us through.
You can see Graham and Frank are still trying to get off the slip, but they can't. How Nico stayed there, I don't know.
Yeah, really tremendous performance by a singles man to keep up with the two doubles. And so it was, the sprinting couple of Stanley Fryman and Andrew Fenter managed to just pull away from Graham Monteith and Frank Sol. And the first singles canoe home belonged to Nico Viljoen. And they were rather pleased to see the end of that trip. And after 7.5 hours of paddling, you can't really expect the canoeists to look fresh. But Monteith could still smile. Former Miss South Africa, Odette Scrooby, and her sister were there to hand out the prizes. We spoke to the winners of the Kavango Canoe Marathon.
Ek dink dis 'n baie besonderse wedvaart. Dis iets anders as die gewone. Gewoonlik is dit op 'n rivier met baie bakens en dit is maklik om die plekke uit te ken. Jy kan jou afstande bepaal en so, maar hierso is dit absoluut niks nie. Niemand het 'n idee hoe ver is wat nie en dit maak dit veel moeiliker. Die roete was bietjie verder as wat ek van die begin af gedink het. Ek het hier na toe gekom met die gedagte dat die wedvaart slegs 60 km was vir enkel kanoes, maar op die einde was dit toe 96 km wat veel verder was as wat ek verwag het.
I think the major factor with this particular event was the distance. If you compare the distance, it's probably compatible with one of the hardest races in South Africa, which is a Vaal Marathon, which is a 2-day race, and you're covering about approximately the same sort of distance. So the way the race went is that a lot of people were affected right from the word go when they heard what the distance was. And it was a very slow pace and a big group. And I think it was everyone's main goal just to reach the end. And you actually found the front group working together very well and looking after each other. It was a good sense of camaraderie and everything like that. And the main thing is that we just stayed together till the end, and the last couple of Ks was a sprint for the end of the race.
I don't think there was really an opportunity for anyone to make a break, even if they really wanted to, because the river is very wide at all places, and anyone can just stay on the slip. There's no obstacles like rapids or anything you have to go through. So I think the main thing that people tried to do was to keep the pace relatively slow, just to make the distance. No one was going to really try and break away, because they'd probably be scared of blowing and not finishing.
But they didn't blow, and Nico Viljoen took the honours in the singles with a time of 7 hours, 38 minutes and 59 seconds.
Second was Hammond, third Woodgate. I would say it would be closer to 120 kilometers.
Which makes the performance even better. And in the doubles, Fryman and Venter victorious with Monteith and Sol in second.
With Jones and Gosseini in third place.
Then in the 60-kilometre men's doubles, Leon Cachet and Ronald Plonk.
We have Stolz and Labuskaghni in second place, and Charles Curry and Peter Wise from the Joburg Canoe Club in third place.
And then in the 60-kilometre men's singles,
We have Herman Chalupsky, brother of Oscar, in first place.
and then Fossati second and Grobler third. In the 60-kilometre men's singles, that's the standard canoes,
We have E. Kutsia in first place.
and then the standards, the duo of Creer and Berger victorious there.
We had a tie for second place, and in third place we had Kempfer and Thiort.
And the 42-kilometre men's singles event, Van Wyk, Hatting, and he was followed by Blau.
And in the 42-kilometer men's double event, we had Fourie and Hugo first, Besaidnout and Schröder followed in second place, and De Souza and Engelbrecht was third.
42-kilometre women's section, and Swanepoel and Fritz came in together 3 hours, 46 minutes and 12 seconds.
The results of the 42-kilometer ladies double was Stewart and Joubert first.
And there you have the results of the 42-kilometre Watto race.